He's a dumb, unapologetically self-absorbed figure who breaks every rule of branding. So how does Bahati remain so successful? There's an online culture where Kenyans mock successful figures, sometimes not for being controversial, but because their success itself feels offensive. It's easier to believe that they are stupid and just got lucky, that they'll fall off soon, or that you would have done it better if you were them. But what we fail to realize is that they are simply the truest reflection of us as a culture. Bahati fits this mold. It's immediately easy to clown on him, and I've done it too. But in doing so, we overlook one key truth of our media culture. The more you become the joke, the harder it is for Kenyans to ignore you. I'm not calling Bahati Kenya's greatest entertainer, but I do think that behind his antics is a quiet brilliance. There are many examples when it comes to his past and recent antics, especially from his reality show. But Bahati is a master of his art, so much so that we've been playing into the same obvious yet subtle growth strategies dating from as far back as 2013, when Bahati noticed that people will talk about him when he got out of his way to be an insufferable man-child. When you think about it, Bahati's career began with him sweeping the Groove Awards in his very first year, and he did so by blending vulnerability with spectacle. Maybe that's what taught him early on that the more dramatic his life looked, the more the public paid attention. And really, why would he ever change that? If being emotional and over the top made you the country's best male artist, you double down on it too, even if people hate you for it. And not only would you keep doing it, you'd push it further each time, chasing bigger reactions and more media attention, which is what Bahati began to get good at. With his escalation in dramatic behavior, Bahati would go ahead and release Lover, where the song would lean into previous criticisms that his gospel tracks were really just love songs in disguise. While Lover passed as another soft gospel song, the move was calculated and far from random. The brilliance behind this song is that it simultaneously managed to entertain his fans while provoking gospel purists and media critics. Bahati could have gone all out and dropped a proper love song, but if he made it too obvious, people would have sensed that he was making it to trigger a reaction, ultimately lessening the intended effect. Bahati used enough Christian language to make it believable, but called Jesus his lover so it could stir controversy. Despite the backlash, Bahati still went on to secure the consequent Groove Awards because his strategy worked perfectly and amplified his airplay. And this was Bahati's talent, setting things up at the perfect level of subtle drama, just at that sweet spot where it causes people to talk about him, but without getting to that point that, yeah, but you can only tell that he's doing it so people talk about him more. It led him to gain 1 million views on Lover and just 600k on his less infamous song In Love, where he employed a similar triggering tactic. Perhaps the reason In Love didn't perform nearly as well as Lover was that he didn't nail the subtle romantic drama as in Lover, which invited fewer critics to buy it and cover the stupidity. It was too obvious. But maybe I'm being a little too harsh about being too obvious, because there's one moment that was clearly staged but almost brilliant enough to earn him the top spot. Remember his previous feud with Willy Paul? Once again, the dumbest feud ever had by two musicians. It started when Bahati accused Willy Paul of stealing songs through their shared producer, and it would escalate with the two throwing shade and building competing narratives. Yet, off camera, they were still hanging around and working together, proving that this was just textbook marketing. Even though most could tell it was fake, it worked, helping both Bahati and Willy Paul to maintain their popularity in the gospel scene. But the problem of being involved in controversy after controversy after controversy is that each time it occurs, it has less punch than the last time. After a while, it becomes predictable. So from Bahati's side, what is the solution? The scandals have to get messier and dramatic. Another reason he might have felt pressure to escalate his drama is partly because the gospel era was ending and Bahati's influence was slowly starting to fade. Take for example in 2017, when he began his relationship with Diana Marua, then a controversial secular influencer. Bahati already had a girlfriend, and as a gospel artist, it wasn't expected that he would abandon the relationship to pursue a polarizing woman, especially since he and Yvonne had just had a child together. Unlike his previous scandals, it wasn't entirely clear whether the relationship was meant to stir controversy or if it was legitimate. But it would be naive to think that Bahati didn't know that it would get media coverage either way. This proves our initial point even further, as whether deliberate or not, the uncertainty keeps his audience fascinated. Fake or not, he likely recognized the relationship as an opportunity. This further distanced him from the gospel industry, with many predicting it it will hurt his brand. But what most failed to realize was that maintaining a controversial reputation was in Bahati's best interest. In truth, his core gospel audience began to drift away, and his radio airplay started to decline, which brings up another question. Is Bahati still a gospel musician, or is he better described as a reality show star? With this dive into the world of reality shows, this method of seeking controversy seems to be one of the primary strategies for publicity. When looking at a show like Nairobi Diaries, talking smack and being provocative seems to be part of the draw. When Pendo started feuding with Vera Sidika, the show teased the end of the feud, only for Pendo to slap Vera during their reconciliation dinner. If being provocative worked for Bahati while he was in the gospel scene, imagine how much more free publicity he would receive if he were to be as controversial, if not more controversial, than Vera. Given his past controversies in music, it's no surprise that Bahati would take this dramatic approach in 2017 as it is the release of his reality show. Again, I'll speculate here, but I'd assume in a reality show, the main goal is to generate divisive drama between the couple, so there's much more at stake, giving the audience reason to watch and ultimately bring in more money for the couple. The basis of the show is drama. If there's no drama, is it even reality TV? In which you might argue that Bahati is perfect for the reality TV scene. Perhaps music was never where he was supposed to be and therefore was an intermediary as he found something more suited to his personality. Now, with all this in mind, it would make sense why, when Pastor Ezekiel publicly apologized after a congregant falsely accused Bahati of being involved in organ harvesting,
mkubwa wenu kwa hii kazi ni nani?
Anaitwa Kevin Bahati, ni mwimbaji. Mimi sijaimwona.
Hicho kikundi kinaua watu.
Ndio.
Bahati didn't simply let the matter die. Instead, he kept the story alive through his response and the conversations that followed. It had all of the Bahati boxes ticked. Provocative, douchey, yet intentional. All the right ingredients for getting people to talk about it in the social media sphere. Plus, Bahati is very intelligent when it comes to picking when he wants to trend. If you look at all previous scandals, they mostly target either his wife or other controversial celebrities like Willy Paul, and more recently, Pastor Ezekiel, and rarely outsiders. This makes it a win-win for all the parties. All of those involved in the scandal get to leech off the relevance of the new scandal, which promotes his songs and ratings of his show regardless of whether he seems like a man-child. You can call it Bahati exposing his rot in the media scene. However, you can still call it intelligent marketing or promotion. The way you interpret it depends on whether you like the guy or not. The problem in determining whether Bahati is intelligent is that we have seen sort of a nice and humble version of Bahati. Regardless of whether this persona was curated or not, the strategy worked and built his initial fan base. You see so many comments like, "We miss the old Bahati," but if he were to maintain his humble persona, would his career still have been successful? Would his reality TV career be less successful? Would he have made as much money as he has during his peak? Well, thankfully, there is someone who is sort of an example. Fellow gospel singer Echo Dida, remaining humble and in the gospel scene, has done wonders for his reputation. This is perhaps the reason why Bahati lost his nomination for the Mathare Member of Parliament seat, while Echo Dida managed to secure the Mathare North MCA seat. Mathare has introduced a plethora of artists to the entertainment scene, including comedian Rapture. Consider watching this video on how one joke ruined his relationship with Mafrika. These videos take time to make. Consider supporting the channel through this M-Pesa number.
I respect my president, and I respect Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. But please, give the youth of this country a chance.